Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is a Fatal 4 podcast.
Eyes forward, gamers, and prepare to shuffle those feet from side to side. It's time for Squared Circle Strafe, the premier video game podcast of the Fatal 4 Podcasting Network. I am your host, Pro Wrestling Noah, aka Noah Stewart, and it's time to talk about video games. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope you're having a good week. Hope you had a good weekend. Sorry I was out last week. I came down with a sinus infection that I've honestly kind of been dealing with for the past month-ish at this point, still kind of dealing with it. But it was especially bad last weekend, so I was in an attempt to save my voice as much as possible. I thought it'd be a good idea to not talk for an hour plus straight into a microphone by myself. So I thank you for your patience, but hey, here's an episode for this week with a decent amount to talk about. Definitely, a showcase and some other news and games I've been playing. Honestly, too many games. I'll talk about it. But playing a lot of games. It's starting to become a problem. Yeah, playing video games, big problem. But I'll talk about it. But yeah, I had a pretty good weekend. It was love weekend around these parts. Valentine's Day, happy love week. Happy belated Valentine's, I guess. Went to the movies. Went to go see Hard Eyes was our little date there. That was a fun romantic horror movie, rom-com horror mashup. Good slasher. Love Josh Rubin, the director. Yeah. And then on Saturday, I went to a concert. Went to go see Chat Pile, Oklahoma-based metal band. Freaking rocked my socks off. They're great. I love those guys. Because most people, most artists, when they do live performances, they have little hey, how's everybody doing? Little chatter between songs as the band's tuning up or whatever, and they'll do man, I love this city. It's so much fun. This city's the best city, right? People from this city, yay! But instead of doing that, this guy between every song would just kind of okay, here's some movie trivia about movies that were shot in Houston. And hey, you guys seen RoboCop 2? That was shot here. Oh, this director, this actor. Hey, you guys seen Wes Anderson's Rushmore? That was shot here. That was pretty cool. Just every he had. I feel like he probably did research before the concert to just go over a whole list of factoids about a bunch of movies that were shot in Houston. Yeah, great show. If you like metal, go check out their most recent album, Cool World. Highly recommend Chat Pile. But you're not here to hear about music. You're here to hear me talk about video games. And why don't we get into it? Sony had their State of Play this past week. Kind of a not like their big summer showcase that they usually put out, which again we'll kind of talk about a little bit later. Kind of what's going on with that, but this is a kind of smaller expectations showcase that they do like a handful of times throughout the year now. But occasionally, like sometimes these happen and it feels like kind of like a nothing burger, like a bunch of stuff that we've kind of already heard about, which this one had a decent amount of that. But like a lot of times it'll be like maybe one thing that we haven't seen before, or sometimes even not really anything that we haven't seen before. But this one had a decent amount of new stuff, like stuff that I either haven't heard of before or stuff that's being revealed here for the first time. So there's a lot to go over. So why don't we go ahead and start at the top? They had another look at Monster Hunter Wilds. Pretty standard, like just kind of like the game comes out in 2 weeks? It comes out February 28th. So we're really close to the release date. So not a lot that they can show that's like super new, but just another look at Monster Hunter Wilds. Excited for that game. Then they showed a really good look at the new Sega 2D platformer Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which we've seen this before from Sega. I believe it was like in a big, they put out like that trailer that was like, hey, we're reviving a bunch of old franchises. And this game was in that kind of sizzle reel of like the stuff they were working on. But this is like our first look at a like full trailer for the game. It's called Shinobi Art of Vengeance. And it looks really cool. Like, go look up the trailer for this thing. It looks really slick. You know, kind of like hand painted, like Japanese painting inspired aesthetics, kind of like, you know, like ink splotch effects when you like slash enemies with your sword. And it looks like it's really going for like kind of like bringing back classic Shinobi, because like it looks like the main character is Joe Musashi, as in Joe Musashi from the original Shinobi games for Sega Genesis. Which for me, my teenage years were the PS2, so my Shinobi is Hatsuma from that one Shinobi game for the PS2. And then there was Nightshade, which had the lady Shinobi, but it was like a spiritual successor / sequel to that game. But this is Joe Musashi, and it looks like it's really it's trying to pay homage to that Genesis era of Shinobi with like using a bunch of different Shinobi tools and magic scrolls, shuriken swords, all that stuff. And this is being brought to us by the same developer that brought us the Streets of Rage 4, kind of, you know, like bringing back of Streets of Rage. So I feel like they're very trusted at this point with bringing back old Sega classic franchises into the new era, but still feeling like it's just a new installment of those classic games. So very, very excited for Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Then they had us take a look at another Sega game, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which people really, really like that previous Sonic Racing game, Sonic Racing All-Stars Transformed. If I'm saying all those words in the right order, I might not be. But yeah, that I played a little bit of that game. I maybe I should go back and play a little bit more of it. I don't know. Crossworlds is coming, so maybe I don't have to. But it looks like the gimmick for this one, the Crossworlds part of it, is that you will have portals in the like middle of the track that you can kind of choose to go down like either portal to end up in a different kind of track mid-race. I don't know how I don't know how that works for everyone else in the race, or if like maybe like one racer makes the choice, and you like people get to make choices throughout the race. I don't know, but I guess we will be able to find out soon, because there's a closed beta for this game coming February 21st that you can sign up now for, so you can get a good look at that. Then we got a look at a new installment in the Digimon story franchise, a new full-blown Digimon JRPG coming to us, Digimon Story Time Stranger. Didn't really reveal a ton about like maybe what's different gameplay-wise for this one as opposed to the other ones, but people really liked those other Digimon Story JRPGs, so here's another big one. They're not giving up on this franchise, folks, and here's another one for you. Definitely, I don't know. I feel like I see that the older one on sale for like $10 every once in a while. Maybe I should pick that up sometime. Then we got a look at a new game, at least new to me. I don't recall ever seeing this game before this showcase, but there's a game called Lost Soul Aside, which looks like a very flashy kind of character action game. Think like something like a Devil May Cry, where it's looks like like very focused on mobility kind of character action game, and the bosses also look very demanding with like all sorts of like attacks coming from different directions all the time, but your character is still very mobile and has a lot of dodging options. So this looks very cool. It's also coming very soon, March 30th. Like it's like just a little over a month away. This will be coming out. So keep an eye out for that one for sure, because it's coming in hot. Then we got another look at Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Again, this one's coming pretty soon, so I don't think there's a ton to reveal before the game comes out. Just another look at another trailer, another look. I believe there's a demo either it's already out or it's coming out next week, but there should be a demo. I mean, by the time you're listening to this, just go look on PSN. I'm sure it's on there. Then speaking of Yakuza, or Like a Dragon rather, we got to look at a DLC coming to Dave the Diver, Ichiban's Holiday, featuring the main character of the recent Like a Dragon games, Ichiban, and he gets to team up with Dave the Diver, go on diving expeditions, and also what looks like a Streets of Rage like side-scrolling brawler mini games. So if you like both of those franchises, definitely pick that one up. Then we got a look at Splitgate 2, which I am cautiously excited for, because the first Splitgate I loved playing. I want to say, I think it was free to play, or maybe it was like in early access. I don't know. That original Splitgate, for those who don't know, Splitgate is a like arena based like deathmatch or capture the flag, depending on what mode you play, first person shooter multiplayer game. And the quick pitch on it was basically that it's Halo but with portals, like as in like portals, where you like shoot, you shoot one hole and then another hole and the holes connect, and they're momentum based as well, like in Portal. So you can like shoot yourself out of the holes to get to higher places on the map, verticality. And the gunplay plays a lot like Halo, like there's shields and health and such. So very cool game when it was out, but the weird thing about it is that they garnered a lot of success, and instead of deciding to like continue to support that game, they decided to take all the resources that they had gained from that initial release, shut down Splitgate, 1 for like, I think it's been about 2 years at this point, and then start development on Splitgate 2, and it's finally almost going to be available for kind of like a first hands-on experience. They say they're rolling out an alpha demo later this month in about like a little less than 2 weeks. February 27th, we're going to be seeing that alpha demo come out. Then we got another look at WWE 2K25. Already heard us talk a lot about that on the previous episode, but they decided to give us another look at the island here. Then we got another look at Borderlands 4, which looks like more Borderlands. So if you like Borderlands, then hey, here's some more Borderlands. I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of the Borderlands franchise, but if you like shooting guns and then getting more guns with the guns, and I'm sure, playing a podcast while you play the game, then this will be here for you. I think they announced the release date for it coming out September 23rd. So little later this year. Got another look at Split Fiction, the new game coming from the studio that did It Takes Two, which is a very similar to that style looking game, co-op adventure with, like players taking on different roles throughout, different modes of play, either platforming or puzzle solving or what have you. The studio gets really inventive with the ways that they do co-op play. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I never got around a chance to play It Takes Two, but I definitely want to try Split Fiction. And then they showed off a story trailer for the new Dark Pictures game coming from Supermassive, the people that brought you Until Dawn, which is their new game Directive 8020, which is them kind of moving into a sci-fi lane of narrative horror. I think this is going to be a little bit more like direct control over characters, kind of gameplay driven than previous Dark Pictures games. I think they're looking to kind of separate themselves from the previous Dark Pictures anthology series that they've been doing. And this one looks like it's some really flashy looking sci-fi horror, like a little alien, some dead bodies and some substances. They say they got there's a substance that's changing people, some body horror and alien tentacles and stuff. Looking pretty rad, and it's going to be arriving during Spooky Month for October 2nd. Hell yeah. Speaking of spooky games, they showed us they just keep coming, don't they? A new Five Nights at Freddy's game, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. This one is looking to be more in the style of, what was that game that they put out the one game that was like an actual, because the usual Five Nights at Freddy games are, or at least like the first 4 or 5 are just like first person sitting in a booth and looking at cameras, or like looking down hallways or whatever, trying to not get got by the monsters as you're kind of doing tasks to try and not get got by the monsters. But this one looks like it's more of a direct control, kind of first person going around an environment type of game. And it seems like the hook for this one is that there's an endoskeleton that can wiggle its way into any animatronic frame. So you never know which animatronic frame is suddenly going to come to life and start attacking you or whatever. So fans of the series, I'm sure, will be very excited for this. I know my wife will be very excited, if not to play it, then to watch someone on Twitch or YouTube play it. Also, the second Five Nights at Freddy's movie is coming out this year, so I'm sure that they'll want to spin up the game machine, the game making machine to really, you know, pump up the release of that. And then also keeping the creepy train going, we got another look at the Midnight Walk, which looks really, really, it looks really cool. It's kind of got like a Tim Burton-ish aesthetic, just like with the way, like the character design and the creature design. But it also has a kind of stop motion animation style, kind of that like animated on the threes kind of, you know, like kind of like stuttery animation. But it looks just so cool. And the faces that some of these monsters make it at you, like it looks cute but also terrifying in that like special way that Tim Burton aesthetic can get. It appears to be, you know, like a first person like stealth. I'm sure you'll do like some puzzles and stuff, but it's also playable in PSVR 2, which this game must be crazy to play in VR. Just like what a nightmare. But this is also coming pretty soon-ish. It's coming out May 8th. So be on the lookout for that one. Then they showed off Darwin's Paradox. If I had to, this is coming from Konami, which is interesting because it doesn't really look like a Konami game at first glance, but the best way I could describe it is it looks like a really cute inside, like Playdead's Inside, where it's a kind of, you know, that like platforming puzzle side-scrolling game, where you're like going through a factory and you might have to do some like puzzle stealth and stuff, but it still looks cute. Like you play as a little octopus guy named Darwin. I assume like Octodad meets Inside, I guess is the best way to put it. But it looks real. The production value looks good, so definitely looking forward to checking out that one. Then we got a look at the game Warriors Abyss, which appears to be a roguelike spin-off of Dynasty Warriors. So it's a Muso, but it's run-based, which I think the game has already, it kind of like shadow dropped, and it's already available on like PS5, PS4, and PC. And I think I looked at the Steam page for it, and it wasn't getting amazing reviews so far, but the concept sounds amazing. Like the concept sounds something I'd be interested in. I just love that idea of mashing up genres like that. But maybe check the reviews before you give this one a shot. Then we got a look at Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny, the remaster of the classic PS2 Onimusha game, which I will probably keep my eye on, seeing as how I have also been playing Onimusha Warlords, the first one of that PS2 era, for the first time recently, and had a pretty fun, decent time with it. Then also, speaking of Onimusha, again, like Sega and Capcom really supporting their older IP. You'll love to see it. They gave us another look at the new Onimusha game they have coming, Way of the Sword, which they are saying is, they're kind of like teeing up expectations in such a way, because I think when a lot of people see like samurai game or, you know, like dude with sword game these days, a lot of people tend to set their expectations at like Dark Souls level difficulty. They're starting to build this game as a like easily accessible action game. Like I think they're just trying to say like, hey, like this is going to be a normal difficulty, just like run through an environment and hit enemies with sword game. Like, don't worry, everybody, it's not gonna like crush your soul or whatever. And then also, the trailer they showed was like showed off a lot more of the story and kind of the tone of it, and it seems like it'll be like, you know, dark with like demons and stuff, but the main character seems like a little quippy, like he cracks some jokes, so it looks like it's going to have like a decent amount of comedy to it as well. So love to see it from Capcom. Speaking of classic franchises, got another look at Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I think the big thing coming out of this trailer is that they will also include the Ape Escape mode that was in the original Snake Eater. So that rules. And that'll be coming out August 28th later this year. Got another look at Hell Is Us, which they showed off, I believe, in a previous State of Play. Again, kind of a, Dark Souls-like guy with sword fighting bosses kind of game. But we got the release date from this trailer, September 4th. And the Souls-likes keep coming with a look at the DLC for Lies of P. They're calling Overture. And it looks like more Lies of P, but it's got like some new weapons. You got like Wolverine Claw, and it looks like some new, I guess, like special moves. Like I saw like in Marvel vs. Capcom when Spider-Man does his like spider sting or whatever, and he like flies around, like bounces off the frame of the screen, just like bop 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 bop, flying around the screen doing a bunch of punches and stuff. It looks like there's like a move kind of like that in this. And yeah, more Lies of P, which the end of Lies of P, if you've seen it, they teased something that was like, oh, maybe there's like more than just Pinocchio stuff in this world. So I don't know if they're going to tackle any of that in the DLC or if they're waiting for a sequel to really get into that stuff, but that'll be arriving sometime in the summer. Then we got to look at a game that looks really unique. It's from the Pixel Junk developers, and this is a game called Dreams of Another, which looks like, weirdly enough, it looks like Dreams, the Media Molecule game. Like, it kind of looks like it was made in that, but I don't think it was. You play as like a character that looks like he's wearing pajamas, and you have a gun, and you shoot stuff in the environment, but it like creates structures as you shoot stuff in the environment. And I honestly, like, there's like a little blurb in the trailer that I think does a good job of kind of summing up the tone of this whole thing. It says, "No creation without destruction, because destruction is by no means an end, but a beginning of something beyond. All human life is finite, and that is why you feel an explosion of life when something is destroyed." So it looks like it'll be, kind of be like hopping through different genres as you are moving through these dreams or whatever. And a lot of them kind of focused on like guns, but also like creation out of destruction. So I don't know. It looks like a game that's got a lot to say, like some interesting gameplay to go along with it. So I'm definitely intrigued by this one. Then we got a trailer for Days Gone Remastered. It's what it says on the box, folks. If you liked Days Gone or you never got around the chance to playing it, there's a new remastered version coming out April 25th. We got a DLC trailer for Stellar Blade. Oh boy, they're teaming up with Goddess of Victory Nikke. What is the mobile game that is big butt anime ladies shooting guns at robots, aliens? I don't know. I just know they shoot guns. Boy, like, hey, don't get me wrong. Pro Wrestling Noah is not a prude. I enjoy big butt anime ladies from time to time, but Goddess of Victory Nikke seems like a bridge too far even for me. But hey, I'm not here to yuck any yums. And I do think it's funny that the Big Butt Anime Lady franchise is teaming up with the other Big Butt Anime Lady franchise in Stellar Blade. So Big Butt Anime Ladies, there's plenty to go around. And the expansion for that is coming in June, as well as a PC release of Stellar Blade. Then they showed off just like a little trailer for Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 1, which is the new game from Don't Nod, the folks what brought you Life is Strange. This looks very similar to Life is Strange. So if you like that franchise, definitely keep an eye out on this one. A new game called Blueprints, which that's Blue Prince, as in like the, son of a king prince. But it's also, seemingly a play on words because the game is very focused on architecture. A puzzle game billing itself as an atmospheric architectural adventure. It looks like you're kind of going around a house where the shape of the house and the rooms are constantly kind of shifting around as you're solving puzzles, but there's also like a narrative element to it. It looks fairly unique. I would say like maybe if you were a fan of something like The Witness or Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, definitely keep an eye out for this one. Might be up your alley. Then a game that I have seen before. I believe they had a demo for it during one of the recent Steam Next Fests. But Abiotic Factor coming to the PS5. And this game is a co-op survival game. Kind of think like what Fortnite was originally supposed to be with the Save the World mode before it, became a battle royale. Where you're kind of like, building up a fort, setting up defenses as you're fighting like waves of monsters. But the setting is like Half-Life, like you're like security guards and scientists in a lab where, it like portals from different dimensions are opening and attacking the facility. So definitely like the aesthetic and like kind of what it's going for. And if you got a group of friends, it definitely looks like a fun time for that. Then we got a look at a new game, Tides of Annihilation, which stop me if you heard this one before, folks. Character action game with a sword and a bunch of bosses. They seem to be pumping out a lot of these, especially for PlayStation these days. But the trailers look good. The trailers look slick. This looks like a cool another one of those. This one, kind of again. This one looks maybe a little bit more boss focused than what was the previous game? Soul Aside, whatever it was called. Soul. What was it? Hang on, I'm looking at this list. Lost Soul Aside. This, and also like it looks like you kind of have like little minions that you shoot out as well. Little bit of differentiation between all of these like swords and boss fight games. Then another new game, a game called Metal Eden. Looking at the trailer, the best way I could describe it is maybe like more sci-fi focused Doom, like the recent Dooms where you have like it looks like the shooting looks like very kind of boomer shooter, but there's some wall running and like big kind of melee combat, like finishers that you can do to damaged enemies and stuff. So I like that kind of shooter, like what with the Doom shooters, and I love wall running in a first person shooter a la Titanfall. So I'll definitely be looking out for this one, and it's coming sooner than you would think for newly announced game May 6th. So definitely keep an eye out for that one. Speaking of eyes, Mind's Eye, which is a action adventure game that says about a AI and human greed destroying society. And it's brought to you by Leslie Benzies, who is a former president of Rockstar North. So looking at the trailer, it looks like there's like a decent amount of driving and shooting guns, kind of like a Grand Theft Auto, style situation. But this one, like a little bit more, I guess, like save the world narrative focused. So, hey, it's, a lot of new IP in this thing, in this whole like, state of play. So I love seeing all these, kind of new games. And speaking of new games, they're like kind of one last thing for this whole showcase was a reveal trailer for Saros, which is the new game from Housemarque, baby. The people that brought you Returnal and Resogun and Nex Machina, kind of like they pride themselves on being like gameplay forward which like all their games before Returnal were very arcadey, like kind of run-based arcade games. And then Returnal was kind of the beginning of what they said was kind of a more AAA era of development for them. And, Returnal was like way more narrative focused than their previous games. And this game looks like it's going to be a spiritual successor to Returnal. The kind of difference, I guess, being that in Returnal, it was run based in such a way that like when you died, you just like started over from scratch and just tried to make your way further into the game using knowledge that you learned on previous runs. But Saros, I think, will definitely be more in the roguelite category, in that you will get abilities that you can like carry over into runs, because they make a big deal in the trailer that this character will like grow stronger every time he dies. But it also, the gameplay, at least judging by the trailer, like there is a big kind of wave of bullets coming at this guy in kind of like a circle formation that you can see reflected in his eye. So it looks very similar to Returnal, I'm assuming, in gameplay. But hey, Returnal, people liked that game a lot, so I'm sure there will be plenty of people very excited for this new game, Saros. This one's showing up a lot later than a lot of the games kind of revealed in this thing, with a 2026 release window. But the trailer looked really cool, so I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of stuff in this showcase, and a decent amount of new stuff that they were showing off. I had a really good time with this showcase, so definitely, like, and it also, but also like not a ton of big stuff, right? Like not a ton of, I guess, like, first party Sony bangers, like a lot of kind of multi-platform stuff that they were showing off. I guess like Saros was really like the one big like Sony first party thing that they showed off. But hey, none the least, a lot of cool looking games coming out of this thing. But why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, I will hit you with a little bit more news and then tell you about the games I've been playing.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back, and we got a bit more news to go over from this past week. Most of this news coming to us from Video Games Chronicle. Definitely go check them out for good video game coverage. And this first story, speaking of Sony and press conferences, Sony reportedly might not hold a full PS5 summer showcase this year. Sony reportedly hasn't decided whether to hold its annual PS5 showcase this summer or a smaller scale state of play, according to Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb. Sony Interactive Entertainment is currently debating internally between the two models, the latter of which typically focuses more on third-party games and smaller announcements. So, I don't know. I feel like I would definitely, be bummed about there not being, a big Sony press conference, because that is typically one of the press conferences that I am the most excited for in the, kind of summertime, Summer Games Fest, E3 kind of, time frame. But if you've been paying attention to like Sony's output as far as first party stuff goes, it's been kind of slow lately. Like it's been like a steady drip, let's say, of of content they've been putting out. They have like a decent amount of stuff announced, but this seems like a really light year for them, which is a bummer because like last year was also pretty light for them. Like the PS5 generation just seems like things are really slow going for them. And that's not to say that, there isn't stuff coming out. Like one of the greatest games of the generation came out from them last year with Astrobot. But yeah, it's looking like it might be such a, slow trickle this year that maybe they don't have enough to talk about for a whole showcase during the summer. So they might just have to, punt and go with a smaller showcase like a State of Play. But apparently they haven't totally decided on this yet. So they're trying to see if they can shore up enough content to do a full showcase there. So hopefully, I would love it if they did, but hey, I guess don't be surprised if they kind of scale back what the kind of announcements they're going to be making during the summer. And then speaking of Sony, apparently they also, this article headline says Sony's PS5 live service title Fair Games has reportedly slipped. This, Fair Games being the, like live service heist game that's been in development for, I think it was first announced in 2023. And was, I believe, initially supposed to come out this year, but it has apparently been pushed into 2026. As I'm sure with, all of the stuff going on with a lot of live service games getting canned this year, Sony is maybe kind of reappraising their strategy with live service. Because I was expecting to hear something about Marathon during this most recent State of Play, but not a peep on that one. So I don't know what's going on with Marathon either, but it seems like the Marathon and Fair Games are like their two big remaining live service shooters that they have planned and in development. So I guess we'll see what happens when those come out. If, they have enough going on to garner a player base big enough to sustain them, or I don't know. I feel like the chances of Marathon are maybe better as it has like a really sharp kind of more unique aesthetic, and there's at least the cachet of Marathon as an existing IP. But Fair Games, I don't know. I would not be surprised if this game never sees the light of day. But apparently, it's getting pushed into 2016, which is, a real year that will eventually we will be in. So at least for now, they're planning on it, being in development for a little while longer and hopefully coming out next year. And then speaking of big publishers with live service strategies, Ubisoft CEO says the plan is to focus on open world and live service games year after year. Yves Guillermo, CEO of Ubisoft, says the publisher is focusing mainly on open world action adventure games and live service games in the coming years as the two big pillars going forward. This apparently came out during a Q&A following a presentation on the company's financial results for quarter 3 of its 2024-2025 financial year. One caller asked if the executives on the panel could shed more light on their developmental pipeline going forward, to which Yves Guillermo replied that the focus was mainly going to be on open world adventures like Assassin's Creed games and live service games like Rainbow Six Siege and the Crew Motorfest for the foreseeable future. Quote, "We have been investing significantly for a big pipeline of products for the coming years along our two verticals, these being open world action adventure as well as games as a service native experiences. And that's what we want to deliver year after year." So it really seems like they are really setting themselves up for, like, this is our identity as a publisher of video games, like the Ubisoft. And funny enough, it is kind of what the public at large perceives them as, and this is them just kind of fully leaning into, yeah, that's what we do, is open world games and live service shooters. and like, to be fair, like, you know, The Crew is not a shooter, it's a driving game. But and also, like, you know, as far as support for live service games, Ubisoft is very good at that. The Siege has been around for a long time. Games that you would maybe, you know, not hear as much about, like The Crew, they put a ton of support into, like, you know, regularly released, you know, like patches and content updates and stuff. So Ubisoft, very predictable. If you don't like those kinds of games, then it's definitely not going to be for you, but they are good at what they do. The problem being that maybe the, like, audience at large is maybe starting to tire of the Ubisoft way of that games are. But according to their CEO, that is the plan. That is the kinds of games they make, and they're going to stick to it. Which, as someone who played Prince of Persia and The Lost Crown last year, that is a little upsetting for me to hear, because The Lost Crown was very much like not in that kind of, you know, two-pillar vertical that he talks about. It was a very, you know, focused Metroidvania, and one of the best Metroidvanias of the generation. It was so good. And Prince of Persia is a franchise that I love, you know, like with Sands of Time. And that game was awesome, The Lost Crown, and it came out and did all right and got, like, you know, critically raved. And the reward for that was that the that developer dissolved, and then everyone in it was, you know, kind of spread to the winds of the Ubisoft factory of you know, support studios. Again, if you like Ubisoft's games, then there will be more of that. Yves Guillermo has got your back. That was like the little bit of news cleanup that we had for the rest of this week. There was one thing I wanted to at least touch on from the past week that I didn't get a chance to talk about, was that apparently WB Games, there was the Wonder Woman game that was announced like a while ago, like, you know, a handful of years ago, that has apparently at some point just like got completely scrapped and started from scratch over again, and is like still in development, but like, who knows when or if that game is going to come out at this point. And I remember, like, when that game was first announced, they were really like, the billing behind it was that, like, hey, you know, Shadows of Mordor and the Nemesis system, and how that's like a really cool mechanic that, you know, we patented and, like, you know, kind of scared off the rest of the industry from ever using, or else like we might sue them. Well, this game is going to have like what's essentially the Nemesis system, but set in the DC universe with, you know, like Wonder Woman characters, which sounds really cool, but also, you know, apparently they had to start over on development of that game. So who knows what it looks like now, and if we'll ever hear from it again. But apparently it's still in development. Fingers crossed. But that is all the news I have for you this week. Why don't we take one more quick break, and when we come back, I will tell you about the video games I've been playing this week.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa Welcome Bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, and we're back, and it's time to talk about the games I've been playing, and boy, have I been playing. Like, I don't necessarily know if I've been, like, playing too many games as far as, like, time spent playing games, but I sure have been hopping around a bunch of different games lately, which I don't know if is good for, you know, completing games, or which I did complete a game this week, or if, you know, how that's impacting like my overall experience, you know, like focusing on a game. But I think that's like maybe, I think a contributing factor to that is just the access of, you know, like games on the Steam Deck, as I'm just kind of like, you know, rolling around in bed like, like here's this game in the library, I feel like playing this now. Or if it's also just kind of the steady trickle of indies that have been happening for the past couple months that have been pretty neat. And then also just kind of my, like, I don't know, I've been playing a lot of like older stuff lately too, as evidenced by I beat Onimusha Warlords this week, just like a couple days ago. I think I've put the finishing, you know, bit on that. Which, you know, Onimusha Warlords is not a long game. I think how long to beat has it at like 4.5 hours. I think I ended up putting maybe like 6 hours into it. You know, kind of like running around, getting lost occasionally, and you know, the labyrinth of the big, you know, Japanese fortress. But that's still, you know, I had a lot of fun playing it. The tank controls are definitely interesting with an action sword game like that. But I definitely love the novelty of that. I think it did kind of start to, you know, bite me in the end towards the latter half of the game when the boss fights started getting a little more demanding. And it was like, I think the second to last boss fight that I did, I actually looked up a like YouTube like walkthrough of like, okay, how do I fight this boss? And the video I saw, this guy was using in the HD remaster, they added like analog control where you could just, you know, point the analog stick in the direction you want the character to go instead of using tank controls on a D-pad. So this guy was just like cruising around like able to, you know, really outmaneuver that boss, while I was over here like, you know, having to like, you know, turn. But I did there was a movement mechanic that I did not quite grok until like the kind of ending hour of that game, that if you hit in, you know, it's an old PS2 game, so the tutorializing in it and, you know, signposting is maybe not up to the, you know, the quality of modern games, but there's you can hit the R1 button and it kind of locks you on to like the closest enemy, and, you know, for a boss it's the enemy that's there. And if you hit the like, you know, left or right on the D-pad, you can kind of like strafe around the enemy, which ended up being extremely vital for that boss. So I eventually was able to figure that out, and then, you know, with a couple more tries, really take care of that boss. But also another thing about old PS2 games of that vintage is that sometimes you can't skip cutscenes, and it's really annoying when you lose to a boss and you have to load your last save and then watch like the long cutscene before a boss fight again and again. But we eventually got there. I actually think that second to last boss was maybe a little harder than the final boss. I think I only died like once to the final boss, whereas I died like a good handful of times against that second to last boss. And that the end of Onimusha is like weirdly a downer. It's like, has the kind of, like freeze frame over characters as narrator tells you what happened to, like all the characters, like years after the events of what you just played. And it's like, oh, this character went to this province and this emperor rose to power and they died. Or like this person got, conscripted to this army and they died maybe 5 years later. And the main character, Samanosuke, well, no one knows what happened to him. It's just like, okay, cool. And then I think Onimusha 2 does not star Samanosuke, the main character you play in this one. So I think it's just like a new story set in the world of Onimusha. I mean, I'll definitely go and check that one out. I enjoyed Onimusha 1, but, I think Onimusha 3 goes back to like it shows like what Samanosuke is up to. So I think there might be a continuation to that story, but that'll be for a later time. And then other old games I've been playing, still trucking along on Metroid Samus Returns, the 3DS remake of Metroid 2. Got a little further into the game, a few more zones in, picked up the Viera suit and the plasma beam and the spring ball, which the spring ball lets you jump with in the morph ball form, and like the spider ball lets you crawl along the walls and stuff. And yeah, still having a great time with Samus Returns. I don't know. I don't know if like, there are so many Metroids in the game that I like. Metroids in the franchise, I feel like are, at least in, like Zero Mission and Fusion, just seemed like such huge threats. Like, oh my God, like we got to the part of the game where the Metroids start showing up. Oh, like you have to freeze them and hit them with the missiles. It's so hard. You have to like dump all this ammo into them. It's crazy. And to be fair, like the encounters with the Metroids in this game, are basically boss fights, and you do still have to, like dump a whole bunch of ammo into them. But the encounters are so frequent throughout the whole game that it does just kind of feel like, oh, here's another Metroid, bop 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 bop. Like it does. I don't necessarily feel that same like weight of danger as I do in previous entries. But they are difficult. Some of them are like, they take different forms, at least. Like there's, like kind of more standard Metroids, and then there's the ones that are like really weird, like insectoid crawling around on like multiple legs guys that you have to like really dump some missile ammo into, like directly into their face as they're chasing you, and they'll shoot like big like lasers and stuff. It's crazy. But yeah, still enjoying that game. I think I'm still not quite halfway through it, but that's a good podcast game. And then still trucking along on Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana that I've talked about on here before. JRPG, action JRPG, and I think I'm like just at the end. I'm in the last act. And I think I'm about to like enter kind of like a, last boss rush sequence that, all JRPGs like, oh, like you think you're about to fight the final boss, but actually there's like 4 different forms you have to fight or whatever. Almost done with that. Hopefully maybe sometime this week I'll wrap up Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. And then also I went back and played a fairly, at least compared to those games, a fairly recent indie release, Everhood, which I believe there's a sequel. Everhood 2 is coming out later this year, but I'm playing the original Everhood, and it's a kind of rhythm based, like I would say like maybe think something at least aesthetically and kind of mechanically like Undertale, less JRPG, but the kind of, like action music based parts of Undertale where you like are walking around an overworld as like this character, kind of like 16-bit JRPG aesthetics. The world is very strange. It's all very kind of dreamlike, extremely psychedelic. Some of the like cutscenes are just like, don't like, if you play this game in pitch dark, you will just like strobe yourself out with some of the visuals in this game. But the like main like meat of the gameplay is that you are facing an enemy, and the enemy is, you are on what's can really only be described as like a rock band track of notes coming at you, but the notes do damage to you, and you are the character, and you have like kind of like 5 slots that you can kind of like left to right kind of zoop into. And as the music is playing and these notes are coming at you, you are trying to avoid the notes as they are coming down the lanes at you. And that's like really like kind of like where the gameplay like starts and stops. But the variation of that they get of the different kinds of notes that they're sending your way, and also like the screen will kind of go at like a Dutch angle to the left, Dutch angle to the right, then it'll like fully rotate as you're kind of having to like deal with the orientation of the screen, because the left to right is still going the way that it did. Your controls kind of reverse as the screen goes upside down as it's rotating. Like you're having to keep all of that in your head at the same time as you are being assaulted with like these extreme psychedelic aesthetics is crazy. It is like a little more crazy, like assault on the senses than I was expecting it to be. And I've only like, kind of touched it. I've put maybe an hour into it, but I am definitely intrigued with Everhood. Looking to hopefully, spend a little bit more time with that before the sequel comes out later this year. Then as far as newer stuff goes, it was a game that came out, I believe, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago on Steam called FlyKnight, which is a like first of all, it's $5 on Steam. So extremely good, like value. But I think that the game is only like maybe about 5 hours long, but it is Dark Souls from Soft, before they made Dark Souls, they made a franchise of games for the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, I believe it crossed over to PlayStation 2, called Kingsfield, which was essentially like proto Dark Souls, but it was first person, and it did not have the, like die and then have to like go back and collect your stuff part of it, but it did have the parts of Dark Souls that was weird, dark, vibey world with like crazy like kind of like monster designs, and the like world was kind of set up in a way that you turned a corner and something just kind of insta kills you, kind of setup that Dark Souls is so famous for. And like build like stat building your character, and like picking up loot throughout the environments and stuff, and just like really rewarding exploration and discovering secrets. And FlyKnight is very much like Kingsfield. It very much feels like a like a spiritual send up of Kingsfield. But the world is really interesting because it is the kind of lore they have set up is that all the characters in the games are bugs. You are a fly, But there is a like evil sorceress, Luna Moth, or I think it's like she's like a witch, that has cursed the land, and all of the flies have lost their wings. And you are attempting to storm her dungeon, to like slay her and bring wings back to the flies. But there's like, factions of like flies that are like, oh, it's a lost cause, we'll never get our wings back, might as well just like fight stuff in the dungeon, and whoever thinks that they can take down Lunamoth is just like a lost cause, and I'll fight you too. But yeah, just like it has like a kind of a low poly aesthetic. It feels like a little like stuttery, janky in its movement, but it's kind of like endearing and charming in that way. The attacks are very deliberate. Like there's, like in Dark Souls fashion, you kind of have to anticipate when you're actually going to connect, as like opposed to when you hit the button to engage that action, and you're kind of like facing off like one-on-one duels with these other like either creatures or like different kinds of, there's like beetles and ladybugs. Like the ladybugs are like kind of magic users. They'll shoot magic missiles at you. The beetles have like a big shield, and there's also the weapons have different damage properties. Like there's slashing damage, piercing damage, crushing damage from like a mace that'll do more damage to armored characters. It's got a lot going, and again, $5, and it feels like there's a lot of depth to the game. But again, I think it only takes about like 5 hours to get through. I've only put about like 3 hours in. But it's a good, if you like Dark Souls, if you like that aesthetic and that like the philosophy of that gameplay, it's a great time on Steam for $5. And then one of the more recent like hot new releases in the indie world, Rift of the Necrodancer, I have been enjoying a lot. Crypt, if you remember, Crypt of the Necrodancer was kind of a really early indie darling on like Steam, and then like released to I think like the Vita saw a lot of play on like for that game. I think it was like eventually ported to Switch, but it was a kind of early on in the roguelike craze for indie games. Like I think it was like it came out like not too much longer after like Binding of Isaac really kicked off the whole craze for like bringing roguelite into like as like an established genre. And of course I'm saying roguelite. Of course rogue has has existed since like very early computers, but I'm talking like the kind of like modern genre of roguelite, like indie games. And Crypt of the Necrodancer was one of those, but it had like a rhythm-based mechanic to it where you had to move around the dungeons to the beat of the music, and if you didn't move to the beat, you would like take damage, or you would like like other creatures in the dungeon would move, and you wouldn't be able to move if you didn't move on the beat. And that game was fun. I think I didn't spend a ton of time with it because I think I was still early to roguelite games, and I just hadn't quite gelled with that kind of gameplay yet. But it was always a game that I like respected way more than I actually like had fun playing at the time. But I think I ended up listening to the soundtrack to the Crypt of the Necrodancer way more than I actually ended up playing it. The soundtrack by Darren Baranowski, the guy who also did the Super Meat Boy soundtrack, which like very, very good indie game composer of music. To which he also came back and did rearrangements and new music for this game, Rift of the Necrodancer, which is weirdly enough is not a roguelike game. It is instead a more straight up rhythm game. something like a Guitar Hero or Rock Band or like Step Mania or something like that, where it's a lane of notes coming at you, and you have like 3 directions. You have left, right, and up, and then if you hit down, you can hit all 3 at the same time. But I thought it was really going to be just like a straightforward rhythm game in the same way that something like a Stepmania or a Rock Band would be. And I felt like fully equipped to be like, oh, I got this. I love rhythm games. I'm good at rhythm games. But I think this game humbled me because it's, instead of just straight up notes, the stuff coming down you at the lane are enemies. They're like creatures, like slimes and bats and skeletons and stuff. And all of the different creatures have different stuff they do. And like the different variations on those creatures also do different stuff. Like there's like green slime. You just hit the note when it comes into like your like the point where you need to hit the notes on the lane, and that's it. But if there's a blue slime, then you have to hit it twice. You have to like on the beat, like 1, 2 in order to get rid of it. And then like yellow slimes, you have to do it 3 times. Bats, you'll hit it once, but then it will jump over to the next lane. So like you'll have to like left up or up right as it's like moving across, and like the yellow ones you have to do that 3 times as they're kind of, and if they go like off one side of the screen, they'll come back on the other side, so you have to like keep that in mind. And the skeletons, like they'll like lose their head and they'll run back up the track and then come back down. So there's a lot of different enemies that do different stuff on the lane, and you have to like keep all of that in your head and react to them as it's all happening. And I thought, like, with rhythm games, I tend to skip past like the beginner and normal difficulty settings and go right for whatever is like the like hard, not quite like the most extreme levels of difficulty, but I will go into the hard modes instead of like the like normal or beginner modes. And the game kind of kicked my ass when I decided to do that. And I like, my initial reaction to that was like, well, maybe I don't like this game. But then I like went back down to the kind of more medium difficulty and started to really engage with its systems. And I'm having a much better time with it. I think I really needed to recalibrate and understand that, like, okay, I can't approach this like other rhythm games and expect to be really good at it at first, because there's a lot more going on here than just a straight up rhythm game. And it's got, just like you can go in and play the songs. It's also got a story mode with cutscenes that are fine. But also, in addition to just like the normal like rhythm game that's kind of at its core, it also has like little interstitial mini games in the story mode that are closer to something like a Rhythm Heaven. If you're familiar with that franchise, where it's like little scenarios, like the one I played, the first one you do in the story is you're at a yoga class, and you like the instructor is telling you like, okay, up. And then like you'll see other people in the yoga class as like like there's one on the left, one in the middle, and you're on the right, and they're kind of like like left, middle, and then you're on the right, and you hit it in time with, so you kind of see like the beat coming toward you, and you hit it when you're supposed to. You like left, right, up, down, and I really like that kind of genre of rhythm game as well. So it's like there's a little bit of mashing of different kinds of rhythm games, as well as the like enemy mechanics in it. It's really weird and unique, especially amongst rhythm games. So if you're a fan of rhythm games, definitely consider checking out Rift of the Necrodancer. I believe it's I don't know, it's on Steam. It's either I would have to check. I don't know if it's on PlayStation yet. I could only imagine it's coming to PlayStation and eventually, like Switch, because Switch is pretty good at getting indie games, and I believe Switch. Oh yeah, I think it might already be on Switch now that I think about it. I believe I saw it during a Nintendo Direct. And also Nintendo has had a really good relationship with the devs for Necrodancer. They did that like Legend of Zelda themed one, Cadence of Hyrule. So yeah, Rift of the Necrodancer, definitely very cool. Check that out. And then like one other game I just kind of barely touched, but definitely looking forward to playing more of, was Urban Myth Dissolution Center, which is a game in the vein of something like a Phoenix Wright, where it's kind of like very like visual novel heavy kind of mystery solving game. A very cool like anime pixelated like graphic style to it, and you are playing as a character that can see ghosts or other urban myth kind of like cryptid stuff and whatnot. But as you're kind of like going through the mysteries and you're like reading dialogue, your paranormal sight will see like clues hidden in the text that you like open up, and that'll lead to other clues. And like the horror vibes are very, very strong in this one. So yeah, again, I haven't really touched a ton of it, but I'm looking forward to playing more of it. Also, the beginning of it has a very Orin High School Host Club style opening where your character like breaks something in like the main center facility, and like, oh, you broke this thing and it costs like 10 million yen. Guess you got to work for us to pay off the debt. That's a reference for mid 2000s anime fans, for those of you who are out there. But yeah, those are the games I've been playing. Again, been playing a lot of different stuff. Kind of a jack of all trades, master of none this week. But definitely looking forward to getting into more stuff. And there's even more like Avowed comes out for me next Tuesday. I get access to that, so probably be talking about that hopefully next week. And that's like a big deep RPG. So I'm kind of drowning in games over here right now. But hey, that's a good problem to have. But I think that'll be about it for this week. I would do a strafe shuffle, but I still have a sinus infection and my voice hurts, so I think I'm going to stop talking into this microphone. But thank you for listening to Squared Circle Strafe. Leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Uzi Neon. If you want to catch more of me talking about some real nerdy stuff, you can follow the Didn't Get All of It podcast to hear me and the rest of the Fatal 4 hosts talk about the latest and greatest in professional wrestling. You can also sign up for our Patreon to get exclusive access to our Discord, as well as bonus content and the satisfaction of supporting independent podcasting media. Head to patreon.com/fatal4pod. That's fatal, F-O-U-R pod. Thank you again for listening, and as always, enjoy your gaming.
You've been listening to a Fatal 4 podcast. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts and visit fatal4pod.com for more episodes, merchandise, and info on the Patreon.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.